Hello friends, Jenkins Dota here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of DotaAlchemy.com, and this video I'm going to be doing a replay analysis, but not just of any replay. This is going to actually be one of my replays in my qualifier run with my team for the NADCL, which is, if you're not familiar with it, the North American Dota 2 Challenger League, which is essentially a league for all of the top North American teams that aren't sponsored, to help them sustain, to give viewership to Dota in the downtime between minors and majors. It's kind of similar to, Dream League, like they have that in Europe, except it's obviously more focused on North America and on sustaining the North American Tier 2 scene. So basically, we're very, very happy that we qualified for this. We played against good teams in order to qualify, so it was a nice affirmation that what we're practicing is going well and we're getting better, and just a whole lot of good came out of this for us essentially. And what I want to do is just take a look at this replay, this one in particular, by the way, which is the final game. The previous game was a nail biter. It went to like 80 minutes or something like that, and we had a throne race. A game like that is fun to watch, and it would be interesting to analyze my thought process, but it wouldn't be all that useful because there was so much randomness and chaos in that game that I was kind of acting on impulse. Whereas in this game, everything was just thought out, and that's why I want to take a look at this replay. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. So the game is paused here, and the reason that I paused it is because the very first thing that I personally do when I go into a competitive game is that I like to look at the heroes on my team, the heroes on their team, and think about who stops me from playing my hero normally. So in this game, I am playing Enigma. The most important thing about this hero is that he has Black Hole, and that is a crazy team fight ability that you can just wipe the floor with the enemy team. Even at, 70 minutes into the game, this spell is still absolutely broken and shreds people. Kind of the other important thing is that you have these Eidolons that are going to help you lane really well, deny creeps in the lane, and to push out waves very safely without putting your hero in a dangerous location. So essentially, the way I see this game going in terms of their draft is that in the laning phase, the heroes that could kill my Eidolons, it's not going to be Storm because he's their mid laner for sure. Drow can right-click my Eidolons. She's a ranged hero, so that's pretty good for her, but she's not AoE, so all I need to do is I need to move my Eidolons one at a time by just box selecting them away from her. Weaver can Sakuchi through them. I thought he was going to be a 5-role support, so I was kind of mentally preparing myself for this lane. However, there's an Underlord that's actually laning against me, and this hero has the Firestorm, which kills the Eidolons, so that was also a bit of a consideration. And then in terms of the game, the laning is relatively easy for me because this was like a last pick Enigma. The laning's very, very easy. In terms of the team fights and how I want to use the Black Hole, which, like I said, is the most important thing about this hero, I know that they have a Storm Grip that can interrupt me, this Electric Vortex, but it's very close range, so he would need to zip through the Black Hole, and as he's zipping, use the Electric Vortex to interrupt me. That's pretty damn hard to do, so I basically consider that this hero cannot interrupt my Black Hole until he gets an Orchid, but at that point I should probably have a BKB, so I didn't have to worry about the Storm. The Drow can use the Silence on me from quite far away, but she's also a hero that doesn't really want to get right in the middle of a fight. I mean, she barely fights at all anyway, so it's not really that much of a concern. Really, the big concern for me, and of course these two heroes, the Underlord and the Weaver, they have absolutely no way of interrupting the hole. Really, the big concern for me is this Spirit Breaker, because the Nether Strike can cancel the... You can charge in and then cancel the charge, because of course, if you charge through the Black Hole, you just get sucked into it, so the charge isn't an issue. But if he charges in, cancels the charge right outside of the Black Hole, and then uses the Nether Strike, that is what is going to interrupt my Black Hole. So basically, in a team fight, all that I really need to consider realistically is, has Drow used her Silence? Has this guy used his Nether Strike? Or either of those heroes in a position where they can interrupt my hole? And if the answer to that is no, then I can hole. Or if I see one of these heroes and the answer to that is no for the other hero, then I can hole. So really, it's a pretty easy game for me on Enigma. All I need to do is consider these two heroes, and the team fights are going to go really well. The reason that I wanted to talk about that now is because this is what I think about during the draft. This is what I think about before the game actually starts, and in my opinion, it makes fighting a lot easier when you already have a plan of how you want to execute in the game, especially when you know what these heroes are going to be doing. It's very, very obvious what Drow likes to do, what Spirit Breaker likes to do in a game. In this scenario, if there's 3 heroes here, like if there's like a Storm, a Drow, and a Weaver, we probably can't fight, but just because they could potentially do lane rotations and all these sorts of things, which they did. The Underlord actually came top. We still wanted to look to contest that rune, even though both of our heroes really aren't that great at level 1. The Earth Spirit has the roll, which is okay. It kind of sucks at level 1. Enigma has absolutely nothing but pathetic right clicks at level 1. So essentially, we knew that if there was going to be a fight in this top lane, we probably couldn't take the fight. Maybe we could steal the rune, but we weren't going to commit to a full fight and try to get first blood, because that just doesn't happen when you have these heroes. But because they did a lane rotation and we were in position, we still got both of the bounty runes, which is definitely good. So Alex is just gonna keep rolling on this guy, causing him to be afraid, causing him to be sitting far away from the creeps, which allows me to go for denies. So I kind of screwed up timing the denies with the Eidolons in the first couple of waves, and I remember I actually clicked the damn ward there. I was trying to right click the creeps, and I pressed the ward in the lane because it's targetable. But the most important thing for me to focus on in this lane is to just every single time my Eidolons are up, use them to deny the range creep. I went for the wand first in this game because Underlord is going to be constantly spamming his nuke. I know that he needs to do that to lane here, especially with Alex here on the Earth Spirit. He needs to constantly push this out to get experience. It makes it harder for me to deny the creeps if he has the nuke going, so that's how he wants to play it. A lot of the time you just go for like a Soul Ring rush on Enigma, or you go for a Mana Boots rush. But in this game, because I know I would get so much value out of the wand out of the stick, I went for the early stick. So I go for the deny and the range creep, and then as my hero is casting that, I pressed my A click on the creep that I was looking to deny, so kind of just combining movements there, so I didn't just miss one deny. Like as I was casting the Eidolons, I preemptively use the A click mechanic to go for the deny right afterwards, because I didn't have a big window there. And very typical Enigma stuff happening here, where you just pull the lane back into your tower, you deny as much as you can using the Eidolons under the tower. I'm trying really hard to move my Eidolons and my hero away from the wave, and the reason for that is because I know that this guy, as you can see, that he is canceling his nuke. He's faking the nuke a lot. What he wants to do is to push out the wave and also hit my Eidolons and potentially take my clarity off. So I know if I play to the right of this lane that he is going to need to either choose to leave my clarity on or not nuke the wave out. And he wants to constantly just nuke the wave out, because that's the way that he gets experience here, especially with the Earth Spirit here, is that he just nukes the wave out, he sits in experience range, and he prays to God that I don't deny him. But obviously it's good for me to be sitting at the right of the lane, so he doesn't have that available option to get the efficiency of canceling both my salve and, my clarity, hitting my Eidolons, and then also pushing the lane out. So I made him have a choice, and he chose to do nothing, and he's just getting zoned right now. So there's a play that I made a couple of seconds back there where I had my deny up, I had my my Eidolons up, and there was, I'll actually go back and show you, because I think little plays like this are pretty important in the laning phase, especially when you're playing relatively high level Dota, because these are the things that give you an advantage. But essentially you can see that I have Eidolons up, and I know that he is zoned on the Underlord. So instead of using the Eidolons to go for that deny, I just right click deny it, because there's absolutely no contest in terms of me hitting that deny. It's very, very easy. I just needed to time it, and I was playing against myself basically. And then I got a free range creep deny on the next one. And denies are so damn important in this patch. Really, that's something that I see a lot of people doing wrong in pubs when I'm coaching, is that they'll focus on harassing when the enemy player is already zoned, or they will use spells to get last hits when the enemy player is already zoned. The point of using spells, the point of harassing, is to zone the enemy team, and the moment that they are zoned, you want to get every single last hit and every single deny. That's kind of the entire purpose of everything in the laning phase, is about those denies. And you just want to get them as efficiently as possible if you have absolutely no contest, of course. So the rest of this laning stage proceeded exactly as you have seen for the first however many minutes that I just showed. I just sat in the lane, denying absolutely everything, pulling the creeps back, harassing the Underlord with my spells if he came up and tried to contest me, and the moment that he screwed off in the lane, I just sat and focused on denies. So essentially, exactly like I said, I was just focusing on harassing to give myself a free lane, and then once the lane was free, all I did was I focused on denies so I could get experience and deny him of that experience. But at level 6 or level 7, this is when the game kind of changes for Enigma. You have the black hole available. And what I was looking to do in this game was to push this tower, to force this objective with the black hole. This was actually one of the bigger strategic mistakes that I made this game. I think what I should have done at this point is called immediately as soon as I was 6 for Ember Spirit to come to the top lane, so that way I could secure the tower. But you can see that instead of denying, I am using my Eidolons to push the wave. I'm using my Eidolons to kill the creeps. As you can see, we're just slowly pushing in this lane here. It becomes much easier with the siege creep because I can tank the tower with Eidolons. And now the tower is relatively free. Phantom Lancer comes top. That's also an acceptable rotation rather than Gunner on the Ember Spirit coming top. The only issue with this game is that it happened later than it could have. We could have had this tower already and then been moving in to take the bottom tower, essentially. So I pick up a Midas, I go use it, and then I kill the camp, walk towards mid because there's no reason for me to be top. Phantom Lancer wants to farm on his own, and I'm just fishing for anything, essentially. I see that my team is kind of getting killed. That's a little rough. I was considering backing off, but they put themselves massively out of position, so I look to just black hole and clean up whatever I can with the Winter Wyvern. Winter Wyvern gets a nice curse off with the black hole setup. Unfortunately, I didn't use the Midnight Pulse right before the black hole. I think there was some mana issues, and I didn't want to... let me see. Let's go back and actually check this out. Maybe I just didn't use it. Okay, so I wasn't sure if I had the available mana. If I used wand charges, I definitely would have had the mana, but I couldn't essentially do the quick calculations and figure out that I would have the mana for both, and it would be such a travesty if I had used the Midnight Pulse and then wasn't able to use the black hole. And I think that was just because they reduced the mana cost on this massively, that I wasn't sure if I had the mana for it. But in any case, that was actually a pretty nice cleanup. I TP to the top. Alright, sorry, I walked to the top lane, and the communication here was just like, I was very close to my Blink Dagger. Sammy specifically said to me, okay, yeah, take the top lane, get your Blink Dagger. Otherwise, I wouldn't be taking this space from the PL, because I know the PL wants to farm there. I think he circled that they might be playing there, and it's just safer if I push out with Eidolons, and of course, I head into the trees. A mistake in this scenario would be to push with my hero. So I just sit in trees. I call this woodsmaning. Actually, Lumden calls it woodsmaning, but I just really like that term. Helps me remember this. But essentially, I'm not putting myself in a position where I'm unsafe, but I'm still in experience range. I'm still getting all these last hits and denies. I'm not showing myself at all. I deny the range creep because I can still push out the lane if the range creep is denied, and it's extra experience for me. Now that Gunner's here on the Ember Spirit, it's fine for me to push this out because I know if they go and we have all of these people here, they're going to get wiped. So it's not necessarily that was a bait play or anything like that. It's just that I don't need to really care about playing super defensively, and that's something that we've talked about as a team, and it's a very specific movement and play style. I won't go into it too much here just because it's a long spiel. But now that I have the Blink Dagger, which is the purpose of farming this lane, it's very convenient that I'm up here because we can actually look to take a fight here. So they TP in. I was like, okay, I'm going to hold this when the storm comes in. Unfortunately, Lokarn had the exact same idea as me. He used his ulti. The black hole gets cancelled anyway. We end up killing 2 of them as a result of using those spells. They overcommit, and we have such an advantage that they just lose all of their heroes. In this game, my entire play was basically that I just wanted to group up with my team as 4 or as 5 when my black hole was available, and otherwise I was perfectly content just farming because given the heroes that we have, given the heroes that they have, I don't see them beating us in the late game. PL is a complete hard counter to Drought Ranger. You just run on top of her. There's nothing she can do. Ember Spirit is one of the greatest late game heroes in Dota. He's insane in the late game, obviously, because he has the Sleight of Fist and the charges and just does so much damage. The Winter Wyvern turns a Drow lineup against herself. And, yeah, I mean, we have Enigma. So we have really good late game. So there was absolutely no pressure for me to try to occupy really unsafe areas of the map. I was just okay with farming the safe stuff and taking the unsafe locations when the black hole was up. So now that we got the top objectives and we have that area warded, we essentially decided to leave that space for Phantom Lancer to farm, because he'll be relatively safe up there, and he'll also take all of that farm And if they ever try to gank him, he's very, very difficult to kill because you walk in and there's just all these illusions. You don't know which one is the real one. You can just doppelgang away. So we focus on these bottom objectives exactly like we did top. We just occupy this area. We push them with Eidolons. Gunner can play really aggressively on the Ember Spirit because he has a multitude of ways to escape. And all I need to do on the Enigma is just sit and wait. And if something happens, I will go. So at this point, because that first kind of miscommunication happened where Lokarn on the Winter Wyvern used the curse without, he used the curse and then I used the black hole on top of it, I essentially was like, okay, dude, you look for the curse and then I'll follow up with the black hole. And Gunner goes in, kills the Spirit Breaker, but what's really important is that in a lot of these plays where Gunner is going in and acting like an absolute fucking madman on Ember Spirit, we don't follow it up, and that's because he's communicating that it's not really about committing. He doesn't want to commit. He's just trying to force things out of them because he knows his limits on that hero. If I commit on Enigma, that commits to a full 5-on-5 engagement, which we could potentially lose. So this was actually a good play by them. They saw me. They had vision. This guy zips in. I get the stun off, and then I just hole him because I know that if I don't do that, I'm just going to die to the storm anyway. So I basically had to hole him there. We kill him. We trade the storm for me, which is a good trade for us. And with the storm not being alive, I do believe this fight should go very, very well for us. Unfortunately, the Weaver gets his ulti off. He's been actually a menace this game. Our heroes are way stronger than theirs at this point. We have really, really excellent late game heroes. We lose the Winter Wyvern and the Enigma, but it really doesn't matter because we both used all of our abilities. Really, the Storm matters. If we kill the Drow, all of these heroes are persistent fighters, so killing any of them is really important. So coming up, we have a way better team fight where I held my position on the low ground. We executed our abilities really well, and because of our positioning, it resulted in basically a really nice team fight. So once again, like I said, I picked a position on the low ground. I stood in that general vicinity. I'm moving around a bit because I went to Midas. We just slow siege with the Phantom Lancer. He's got the heart, so he can just constantly regen. You can see I'm standing in the trees. All I was saying was, okay, Lokarn, you go for a Winter's Curse on the Storm. I'll hold the Storm. It doesn't even fucking matter if you hit anybody else. Just Winter's Curse the Storm. Fortunately, 3 people grouped up for the Winter's Curse. I dropped the hole because I knew that we could just kill them all if I did that. And dropped the Midnight Pulse afterwards to kill the Underlord to finish him off. Probably could have Midnight Pulsed first, but in any case, I knew that we had the damage. All I was worried about was getting that hole off. And as a result of Lokarn and I holding our position and communicating to each other essentially how to take that fight, how to make that fight easier, it was a really easy game. So Drow Ranger was split pushing bottom, which is a good play from her. Our supports TP back. I had no hole, so I TP'd back as well. We tried desperately to kill these catapults. With the Drow Aura especially, they do so much damage. So we use everything on them just so we don't lose the racks. We end up losing it anyway, but I think it's okay just given the lead that we have and given that they're all dead. So now the game is just at a point where we're essentially sieging their base. They are not all alive, so in order to do anything to us, they have to essentially feed. They feed, they don't have buyback, we win the game. Relatively clean execution, I would say. I know that I covered quite a few mistakes in this replay, and this team in particular knocked us out of the major qualifiers. So it felt pretty good to execute against them where they made more mistakes than us and we won the game. And once again, it's very easy to look at a replay and point out all the mistakes, especially when these are things we're working on. So I know that they're mistakes because these are things that we're trying to get better at. But also, it's just the fact that these guys are going to pressure us. We're going to pressure them. We're going to crack under certain pressure. They're going to crack under certain pressure. And there's just this kind of ping pong that happens psychologically that causes you to make mistakes. And it's really just about which team makes the least mistakes. And in this game, it was us, but a week ago, it was them. They made less mistakes and they beat us. They knocked us out of the fucking major qualifiers, and we weren't happy about that. So it was very nice to win this game. It was nice to qualify for the NADCL. We're very happy about that. And I'm really happy about how we are improving, and I'm hoping that throughout the process of us improving, I can make content that hopefully helps you guys improve as well. So let me know in the comments what you think about this, and I can keep doing analysis of my games, because of course being in them is a lot better than just looking at a pro and being like, oh, this is how this guy was thinking, because I actually know exactly what we were thinking because we were talking about it in the game. So let me know what you guys think, and if it's useful, if there's any other ways that you want me to cover this. Thank you so much for watching. I do genuinely appreciate it, and I hope to see you guys in another video.